We're now hearing from Attorney General Merrick Garland on one of the Biden administration's top security priorities, combating domestic terrorism. Here he is expanding on the White House's newly unveiled strategy.
Attacks by domestic terrorists are not just attacks on their immediate victims. They are attacks on all of us collectively, aimed at rending the fabric of our democratic society and driving us apart.
NBC News national security correspondent Ken Dilanian joins us now with his reporting on this. Ken, good morning. So the Attorney General highlighted specific areas of concern when talking more about this new approach, really sort of defining what this means as domestic terrorism, white supremacy being one of them. He also mentioned the January 6th insurrection. Can you tell us more about what's now on the table in this new strategy?
Good morning, Savannah. Yeah, the January 6th insurrection obviously was a driving force behind why they're unveiling the strategy. But it really goes beyond that. You know, on President Biden's second day in office, he commissioned an intelligence assessment on the state of domestic terrorism. And that assessment came back last month, and it found that, for example, between 2017 and 2019, 57 Americans were killed in domestic terrorism incidents, 47 of which were conducted by white supremacists, were racially motivated. And Garland talked about the role of white supremacy in this whole domestic terrorism problem. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
In the FBI's view, the top domestic violent extremist threat comes from racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocated for the superiority of the white race.
And so what this strategy does is essentially calls on the FBI to give a greater priority to these cases, spend some more money across the government on this problem, and really calls on the Department of Homeland Security to pay more attention to what domestic extremists are saying on social media. That's controversial. Some people are criticizing it, but the DHS officials say they're not looking at speech. They're focused on violence, Savannah.
And Ken, this all comes after NBC News obtained an unclassified report from the FBI on the threats posed by followers of QAnon. Could you tell us more about that assessment and what exactly they're worried about and how they're handling it?
Yeah, you know, the assessment pointed out that because the paranoid fantasies of the QAnon followers have not come true and President Trump has not regained power, there's a risk that these people could become so disaffected that they are turning to violence. And, you know, it also found that these QAnon adherents were a large part of the January 6th insurrection. Many of the people charged had some tie to QAnon. And so it's just creating a specter of the notion that this movement, this wacky conspiracy theory, is actually dangerous and is creating a greater risk for domestic terrorism incidents. And it's sort of urging all law enforcement agencies across the country to keep an eye on this, Savannah.
And Ken, of course, there we were just seeing images from the January 6th insurrection, and the U.S. Capitol Police have now responded to that Inspector General report on what happened on that day, which essentially concluded that the agency was unprepared for what happened. What are they saying now, and how are they changing their practices for the future?
Yeah, well, the first thing that should be noted is the acting chief, Yogananda Pittman, who is under a lot of fire right now, declined to appear before a congressional hearing yesterday. And the excuse was that she wanted to listen to this Inspector General deliver his report to Congress. And it was not a very favorable report. And in fact, you're right. The Capitol Police is saying that they're actually saying that they pushed out intelligence to members of the force before January 6th, which has been refuted by many, many line officers. But they are saying that they're making a number of improvements. They are making sure that they deploy a response force with non-lethal options in case this ever happens again. But I think we have not heard the last word about what's happening with the Capitol Police, Savannah.